Welcome to the Open Metaverse podcast. Today, I'm your host, Charis Campbell, and with me in the studio, I have Len Findlay, the CEO and co-founder of Saltwater Games. Len, thanks for coming.
Hey, good to be here.
How are you? You feeling well?
I'm fantastic. It's a lovely, balmy 40 degrees outside in Dubai, so it's very nice.
And it's only getting hotter.
It is.
So Len, Saltwater Games, there's a lot going on. You've got IP in the business, there's flying cars, there's AI, there's a game studio. Dumb it down for me. What is Saltwater Games?
Okay, so in the real simplistic view from the high level down, we are three businesses in one.
Right.
We're a Web 2 AR, VR spatial compute studio that has nothing really to do with Web 3, but there are integration moments that we're going to have. We then have a Web 3 studio, which is multi-title. So, and then we also have then an innovation hub as well for things like artificial intelligence, as well as the services element to build and operate our XR network on behalf of XR Foundation.
Interesting. So let's deep dive into the journey of you starting Saltwater Games or co-founding it with Dave. How did that happen? What was that journey like?
Yeah, and it was co-founded with Dave and Chris.
Oh.
Ooh, Chris will be upset on
Sorry,
that one.
Chris.
So, but yeah, Dave and Chris, as well as there was other members of the team as well that came together around the business. But my background was, and how I met some of these guys, was building tech companies for a long time,
Right.
UK, Middle East, Australia. Australia was the last big adventure in a systems integration business.
Nice little Aussie shout out.
It was a big Aussie shout out. Yeah, spent a long time in Manly Beach.
Lovely.
So-
Bondi girl, but okay.
Yeah, North Shore. Anyway, so it's all right. We'll get on.
Yeah, okay.
We'll get on. It's the line is the harbour. And I got to meet some of the guys through the adventures over there, as well as some of the guys came from the UK. But how it started was with the source IP of flying race cars. So because I'd invested in the real flying race car world
Wow.
of Airspeeder and Alauda, which is an Adelaide business.
Wow.
So another shout out to Australia.
So you're talking actual flying cars.
Absolutely, yeah, flying race cars to be specific.
Wow. Okay.
These things are insane when you see them. So, and Matt, the founder, and Jack as well, phenomenal pair. So they've done a great job of actually bringing a motorsport economic system to that sport to bring this thing to life. So, but when you look at airspeeder.com, you're going to start to see the remote pilot versions of the vehicles stepping into piloted versions. What this means is an opportunity to actually build a game experience to train people in the mechanics of how these things even operate.
Wow.
To then go all the way through to even become potentially a pilot.
Wow.
So that's how Saltwater Games started.
It's a very unique journey. As someone who is a massive Formula One fan, I have, let's be honest, at the tender age of 33, missed the boat in being a professional Formula One driver. But is there hope for me yet? Maybe I could just skip that and go straight to flying cars.
I thought the same. So in fact, that's actually one of the reasons I invested and seeded the company and brought my network in. And then I got very quickly told there was about 300 Top Gun pilots ahead of me. So, and some test flights and some people coming out of DRL and some of these things as well. So, but yes, I would, the reason I sort of wanted to go down the journey with Airspeeder as an investor and on the board of that company was because I want flying cars to happen in the truest sense where you're in control of that vehicle. And racing is where you get a chance to even test all the technology that will eventually, hopefully, make it into the hands of normal consumers,
And so
especially in Dubai.
Yeah, especially in Dubai. And so do you see a future where it comes off the racetrack?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So if you look at Airspeeder and what they're trying to do, the actual parent company for those guys are called Alauda. And Alauda has a whole stream to commercialize the intellectual property out of the flying race cars into something that you would acquire and use.
Okay, so you've built a game, Celeros, around this possibility or basically the future prediction that you will be able to take these flying cars that Airspeeder have actually created that are live and traveling around the world at the moment, and this can be the pilot training tool, but at the same time it's open to consumers.
And it's got to be fun first. So it's not
Right.
it's not like Microsoft Sim. So it's not Flight Sim.
Yeah.
So it has to be fun. It has to be an arcade element to it as well, because there is actually a sim on the Airspeeder side for training pilots before they step into remote controlling these vehicles. So because even the vehicles that are even the Exa series, the remote pilot version, that is a hell of a lot of power to weight inside something that's less than 150 kilos. So before you can remote pilot one of those things, you need to have training in an actual sim. So, but we are the arcade. How do you get access to this motorsport from the ground up? The game is how you do it. Or you can watch it on TV. So, of course.
Or as a spectator, perhaps, in future tournaments.
Yes, it's going to be a while before you have spectators sat right next to the vehicle track at the same time.
I'm happy to wait, to be honest, at this point in time.
8 blades about 7 meters above your head flying across at 300 kilometers an hour might not be for everyone.
Okay.
So, but yeah.
And so this was the pivotal moment that sparked the idea of co-founding with Dave and with Chris and yourself in Saltwater Games. Why did you call it Saltwater Games?
Well, I actually used to run my own venture arm out of Australia called Saltwater Ventures.
Really?
And saltwater is basically where we came from, depending on your religious beliefs or not religious or evolutionary beliefs. So, and saltwater is generally where all the minerals of life exist.
Nice.
So, and also if you look at the logo, the 3 waves on the back of a wake. I don't know if you've ever been wakeboarding. The third wave is the biggest.
Yep.
So, and that was another reason for the logo as well.
Same with the set coming in. You got to wait for the third wave. Aussie girl. Yeah.
There you go. So that was the beginning. So what I wanted to do was, so my offer back to Saltwater Games was to give up my Saltwater Ventures, come out of my semi-retirement slumber, which was not very long, and then basically jump in and build this with these guys.
Interesting. So. Okay. So you've got this now gaming studio with multiple gaming titles. Let's look at the Web3 titles to begin with and the XR token that surrounds that a little bit. You've got Celeros, which we've just spoken about, but you also have Resurgence and you've got Freerunner as well. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
I'll start with Celeros because that's the one we were just talking about before. So Celeros is going down the path of a Fortnite of motorsport.
Okay.
It's multi-motorsport inside a single title. The first source IP is Airspeeder, but of course you'll see within the landscapes of what's being built, and without giving any names away, you'll see that we have water and we've got roads. So as well. So even though we're in cityscapes and anyone who's going to be going into Next Fest is going to get the latest version of the Aero Bay to see exactly where the fidelity of this track and the world that we're building is going. So, but it's a Fortnite of motorsport, so it's multi-modality motorsport in one title. So that means that it's based on advertising sponsorship. It's a motorsport economic system. It lends itself very well to XR. XR is almost an esport ability Web3 network, so L3 network. So think about PvP, so it's player versus player, or it's tournament structures with advertising, sponsorship, risk, reward. That's what that network is built for. And Celeros was the first title to be built around that framework. Freerunner, which is parkour racing through a city, similar economic system. So you'll see that one will map very nicely onto XR. But that one, think Mirror's Edge in Web3 with VR.
Okay.
Interestingly.
With VR.
With VR at this point. So I won't give any more away.
Have enough going on, or at this moment?
Well, when we acquired the studio, the Maze and the Emergent Entertainment group, when we basically got the assets out of that team, it came with some of these titles. So what we needed to do then was basically stack them up into the right verticals, to then allow the teams that were already building these things to continue to build, but with the support from the Saltwater Games crew. So, and all the things that we were doing as well.
Interesting.
So, yeah, this is my background is integration. So you'll start to see that theme across everything that we do.
Okay, so that's Celeros. What about Resurgence?
So Resurgence, very different title. So actually Resurgence came with a whole raft of new experiences that we managed to think about within not just XR and the network and L3 and Web3, but actually AI as well. But Resurgence is a title that is based on, you wake up, it's 1,000 years in the future, you come out of a cryopod, you're really not aware of the world around you. So it's a survival and crafting MMO. There happens to be a drone there. The drone can be programmable in a way that basically says it's got access to the context of the game through an LLM. So you can see this is where the AI play is going. And you can then ask it questions around the world. How can it help you get food? Help you narrate your story and how you rebuild your life inside that title. At the same time, it's also multilingual. And you can even have it do accents and bring a bit of humor into it as well. So that was the birth of what is essentially going to be called Sidekick.
Okay.
Which will be multi-title, but Resurgence was where that started.
Interesting. So we've got Celeros, Resurgence, Freerunner. They all sit under the XR token.
They all sit under the Nexus Labs vertical of our business, that entity, and they will utilize the XR, the L3 network that we're building.
And so why build an L3? And where is it being built?
So the thing is, a lot of this wouldn't have been possible until some of the more recent innovations that have happened inside Web3 in the crypto space and blockchain space. So it's only become really recent that we could take a stack, which is basically Arbitrum on ETH with an orbit chain on top, Sequence Wallet, Caldera RAS, and then Layer 0 for the bridge. So a lot of that technology is now just slotted into place, and it's made it possible for us to then make it quick to build. So that's why we've gone down that particular stack path, and that's why we went to an L3 rather than trying to build an L2 and have to go and build all of that technology that other people have already forged the way for.
So timing's been key.
Absolutely key.
As always. So does the world really need another gaming token?
I don't think there's one exists in the way that we're sort of designing XR, which is probably the reason why we had to go down it. I don't like building anything. None of our team like building. That's why I went down the L3 in the first place. Yeah. We don't like building anything that's been done before. If it's been done before and we can utilize it, and we looked on a lot of the projects that were out there, and they've done some phenomenal work too. So this is not to be negative on them, but what we were looking to build and how we were looking to build that economic system, especially with play to impact, the treasury management function underneath, we couldn't utilize any of them. So that's why we had to go and build our own to a certain extent. But that's why we also needed to wait for the technology innovation to happen to the point where we could do it in the fastest, most efficient way possible.
And how are you feeling about it now?
I'm feeling fantastic about it now, if I'm honest. So we're getting all the right kind of support. I mean, we're sat here.
Yes, true. Yes.
So yeah, feeling fantastic about it. All the challenges you'd imagine in how to do. There's a lot of challenges in Web3 game studios. So one of the biggest ones is how do you do product-led gaming? Yeah. Traditional game studios are gaming-led product. So we're having to figure out a lot of those other moving parts on how you do these things whilst being very open in the public, whilst trying to build as well. And making sure that those game loops and those economic systems that you're designing in the product aspect come to life inside a title and they resonate within gameplay and fun. So we're on that.
They do have to be fun. I mean, a lot of the time when I'm speaking to my friends who are traditional kind of Web2 gamers, right, the consistent theme and feedback that we get in Web3 gaming is that your games are not fun, that it was just purely used as a speculation tool for different people to come in and I guess make a little bit of money in the process. The argument that I give around and almost everyone at Animoca is this driven purpose to be able to own your assets, own your IP that you create online, and that gaming is a perfect, I guess, stepping stone in order to do that. That the assets that you buy within your game, that you own them, that they own directly to you and not to another game. The issue that I get from my Web2 gamers is that they say that gamers don't care about ownership.
Yep. What
do you think about
that? To a certain extent, the majority of Web2 gamers don't, to a certain extent. Now, but then if you look at motorsport, one of the highest spending categories of gamers out there in the world. So if you look at Gran Turismo, the amount of vehicles you buy and you own inside your garage, and then there's nothing at the end of it. So obviously when you put the title down, it's gone. You've heard this one before. Everyone's heard this one before. What we're sort of seeing within Web3 is the ability to trade those assets once they're built, tuned, tweaked, and actually made and raced them and had fun with them first. So one of the things that we did with Celeros, and this was on a block mesh version of the game, so we know we're onto something from a fun perspective. Yeah. Because what we did was we released a tournament based on a block mesh version of Celeros. So not the high fidelity Forza that we're used to seeing or any of those things, but the game loops and the mechanics were absolutely on point. Now we ran a tournament over a 96-hour period. We had one gamer spend more than 70 hours over a 96-hour period trying to perfect their lap around that track. The next 5 would over 40 hours.
Wow, it's commitment.
It's commitment. So we and some of these guys Twitch streamed it.
Oh really?
So I think one of them, I think the wife of one of them came in with a sandwich at one point. I was ushering toilet breaks or something there as well. But we know we're onto something with the fun aspect of what Celeros is bringing, because it is a flying race car that's based on the real world mechanics, and probably the only chance of actually experiencing it is going to be through Celeros.
Something I found quite unique about Saltwater Games when I was doing due diligence on your company, and which eventually led to Animoca making an investment in the seed round, was I hadn't seen a Web3 project that had built in this positive change mechanism into the business model. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so this is the why we even exist. So at the time, the first moment I saw Web3 gaming was through a lot of them, even though I've been building companies and I was in blockchain and, as an investor and advising some projects, what I hadn't done was build a game studio. So hands down, I hadn't done that. So, but one of the reasons that I wanted to come out of retirement, and a lot of the team is behind this too, was play to impact. So what we wanted to do was bake into the economic system environmental sustainability, like some good, that also then feeds social impact too. So what that means is we needed an economic system like motorsport, which has advertising, sponsorship, tournament entries, digital asset sales, membership, spectators, all these different moving parts to then feed it into what is essentially a treasury bucket. We then invest in environmental sustainability projects that generate a yield. Mm-hmm. The yield helps to support the tournament prizes, but also it helps to support social impact as well. So one of the first tournaments we ever did, we ended up partnering with the International Justice Mission. Their mission at that particular time was online sexual exploitation of children in Southeast Asia. Mm-hmm. So we basically, through the sponsors and all the spectators that were involved in that, we got to go and rescue a couple of kids out of Southeast Asia from OSEC. So, and that was trying to prove the gaming for good. Mm-hmm. And we went then out to the community to then find out which part of that experience they valued the most. And more than 50% said the social impact.
Really?
Yeah. So, which was a cool, because we thought that was going to be the case, that people actually, even though they were having fun, if they're having fun while something good was happening and it was baked into the system, then, so that was the theory was, is that the case? And it turned out to be true.
I find that quite surprising. I didn't expect that at all.
I think if it's not fun and they're being forced to do something because of good,
sure,
then
no, the feedback loop doesn't exist.
It's got to be something unique.
Yeah. Okay. Very interesting. And so let's touch on the sense of community that you're building at the moment. How are you doing it? How important it is to you? Let's talk about that.
Partnerships are key. Partnerships and people coming. Well, a big part of it is people knowing who we are. Yeah. First off, once people get to know who we are and they see who we are and they see that we're actually builders in this space, then we get a lot of support, especially when it's a unique experience we can roll out and it delivers fun. So that's part one. Two is the partnerships. You'll have seen probably there's an announcement about revolving games. We're currently working on a few other ones that are all coming out. I don't know. By the time this comes out, they may have already been announced or not. So I won't throw my head of strategy under the bus just yet. But partnerships are key. And then what we've done is also built up our own questing platform as well to bring people in to see, one, can we build an audience? We're about to put gameplay into the questing platform. So we're about to launch gameplay in this experience as well to then give something back to everyone who also farm, not just tokens and not just economic value. So,
And so this gameplay, it's super important in games. You said, it needs to be enjoyable. It needs to be fun. How are you creating that? Who's testing it? How do you define what is fun and what is not at Saltwater Games?
It's all done with the audience and community.
Nice.
We have a council. We have the Discord channel. We've got absolute community engagement and everything. What you'll have seen over the last 2 years is, and the reason we used the block mesh circuit was we wanted to test at every single point and take feedback and then evolve and test and take feedback and evolve and try and basically link everything to what people want. So, and that's what we've done. And I will do exactly the same thing with Resurgence. We'll do exactly the same thing with Freerunner. It's different on the Web 2 side. Yeah. The Web 2 side, everyone already understands the market for that. You raise capital against a particular title. You go into a black hole. You build it based on some IP that either you've designed or you've acquired. And then you put the marketing budget behind it and then you launch. And we have titles doing that too. So that's a bit more challenging. Although in the VR space, we get to do a similar community test. So App Labs is the platform. We've had Infinite Inside. We've had actually put Freerunner on there. So that title actually went out on App Labs and we had something like more than 5,000 downloads with some great reviews against it. So Infinite Inside as well, same thing.
So let's talk about the Web 2 side of the business. Cool. What titles do you have under there? What are you building? What are you creating? What does that look like? And how do you balance your time between building out this Web3 side of the studio and against the existing known business model of a Web2 gaming studio?
Well, that studio already existed first off. So the team, the structure, the process, the pipeline, all of it existed when we acquired that team. Okay. But they'd already built titles like Peaky Blinders. They were already out and launched. They'd already had Doctor Who out and launched. They rehashed it for the PSVR 2 just recently. So that's a title that they built back in 2019. So as well. At the same time, they're also working on another title that's on our deck, but I don't know how public it is, for one of the major studios that's a big brand name. So
I love a little breadcrumbing.
yeah, it might begin with T.
Okay.
Anyway, it's a very famous title. So the guys are working on that in collaboration with Vertigo and Embracer. But we also then have another title called Infinite Inside, and that one's being launched very publicly at the end of June, with on almost every VR, AR headset. So we've had to tweak and make sure that we can take what was essentially a puzzle experience that already was on Meta, that we'd sort of built for Meta. We had to pause the launch and then re-look at the fidelity of the hand controls and the gesture controls inside the title, to then take that title and launch it across all platforms at the end of June. So that's going to be a big one. We've already started to share some of this already. Anyway, you're going to be seeing the website go live on this. So there's not really too many secrets on this one at the minute. So, but it's going to be coming out.
Okay,
So.
Interesting. So we have spoken about the Web3 titles. We understand the Web2 studio. We know that you're building your own layer 3. Talk to me about Sidekick. I'm pretty interested in this one. Before I go into it, I don't want to butcher you. You explain it.
Okay, so Sidekick, so it was born out of the inspiration of what happened in Resurgence. So when we first acquired the team, Russ and the guys and Shahad did an amazing job of bringing what is essentially a character called Thor AI to life in this character. So, but it was very much single title. So, but the dream from the guys was also to do more with that. So what we decided to do was rebadge it and lift it, raise it up a level. So that it just sits outside the game, but it also has the ability to actually help someone in there, not just inside the game experience, but outside of the game experience too.
So is this like an AI agent? For me, is this, what is it? Is this her? Is this the equivalent of?
So the narrative you're going to see from us and how we're basically presenting this, the greatest stories ever told, the best adventures you probably ever had in life was with your best mate.
100%.
So yeah, so when we think about Sidekick, that's what we think about.
Right.
So Sidekick Sidekick has the ability to basically embody an R2-D2 style character inside Resurgence, which is the drone. It could be Kit inside Celeros and commentate alongside you and give you some abuse as well. Why not? While you're racing around the circuit, especially if you're going too slow or you're going too fast, so you'll be reckless. So as well as bringing in,
it's your race engineer.
Race engineer, yeah. Or in Freerunner, it's like Jarvis. So it's like an earpiece. So, but it has contextual awareness of each of the titles. It also knows a bit more about you and the other titles you've been in as well, and can also help bring similarity and familiarity to any of the game experiences because you're with your mate. So that's what Sidekick does. So that's what Sidekick is.
I love that. So Len, your journey to get you here to Saltwater Games, you, let's face it, are not a starry-eyed early 20-year-old boy that's just tried to decide to open up
what do you mean?
a Web3 gaming project, which, let's be honest, is pretty common. But you've had a long, successful career. How many exits have you had at this point?
About 7.
Okay.
I'm working on the 8th at the minute as well.
Working on it. He's a busy man. Tell me about the times when you have made mistakes. I am a big believer of loving to hear about these stories of when people have screwed up, they've messed up, but they've learnt so much in the process. Tell me a little bit about those times.
So the biggest lessons I ever learned. So by the way, just on the 20-year-old.
Oh, sorry.
I actually invested in a company with, he was 18 at the time, called Casada, a young chap called Sam Crowther in Australia, funnily enough, creating an identity and bot mitigation firewall technology. So you can absolutely do it at 18 if you've got the right support around you, and try not to make any of the mistakes of us old farts.
No, you don't get me wrong, Len. You absolutely can as a young person go in. I love the confidence, but they perhaps maybe lack the wisdom that maybe someone who's a little touch older might.
Yeah. So then my other thing on this is absolutely, do we get any wiser as we get older? We hope so.
We hope so.
We hope so.
Maybe you just have better stories.
In business, we definitely do. Personal life, never the
Probably
same. So,
no, I'm still 16 in my mind.
Yeah, I'm 25. 2 25-year-olds rolled up in one.
Exactly.
So, so one of the biggest challenges I had actually goes all the way back to when I was about 25 as well.
Oh, really?
So as I'm maturing in life was basically through one of my first businesses that I was just on my own building. with a team over in the UK, in the north of England. And they basically say there was one of the best strap lines I ever read in Ibiza on the side of a road was ego is not your amigo. And at that particular time, we were, as a business, we were flying. Our revenue was going through the roof. We're expanding the team. We're winning a lot of customers. But the challenge was cash flow management and trust in certain other aspects of the business around financial controls. And I allowed ego to basically infect how I separated what the business performance was and linked it to my personal life and not the rest of the team. So every other business since then has been about the team instead of me, and I'm the last one to get rewarded. But at that time, I was the first one. And I allowed my ego to write checks that the team couldn't support.
So there was no separation in identity. You were the company was you. If the company didn't do well, then you didn't do well.
Absolutely.
Or you weren't enough, perhaps, in that process.
Correct. And I basically, there's a line in whether this is for 18 plus. I don't know.
It is.
Yeah, but this is don't believe your own bullshit. So, and at that particular time, I absolutely believed my own bullshit.
Interesting.
So
if you were to restart your career today, if you could go back and be that 18 or 25-year-old, what would you do differently if you were to look back?
Oh, that's a good one, isn't it? If I was to go back, I mean, right, everyone always says this, I wouldn't change a thing. And I am literally in the position that I'm in, the whole play to impact piece, the position that I'm in my life is because of all those decisions.
Yeah.
And if I hadn't had that fall in the first place and the release of ego, then I probably wouldn't have gone on the journey that ended up making all the success in Australia that I got. So, because I wouldn't have been ready for it. So back then, so I would have probably tried. Don't want to say this, but I would have probably been making all the same mistakes if I hadn't had the fall. So because I had the fall, I got to learn, regroup, and then rebuild properly from the ground up because I still had the skill in building companies. I still was an absolute technology nerd in every aspect of my life. I was still, by the way, at the time when I did mess up on that one, I was, funny story, I was actually going to give up IT. I was going to grow my hair, call myself Brad, and actually buy a water sports center in Airlie Beach.
Nice.
So got
sliding doors.
Got the tattoo, couldn't grow my hair, didn't call myself Brad, and fell in love with IT again. But yeah, at that particular time, it was the fall was hard.
Do you think that you enjoyed the time over the last 25 years, say, of your career? So the reason I ask the question is that you're a 7-time founder, which means that you've got really itchy feet and you probably don't take very many breaks. How much do you put time aside to actually enjoy the journey that you're on?
Oh, this is not enjoyment. This is absolute enjoyment.
Right.
When you get to do the things and you get to work with the people you get to work with, and the networks that we get to build, and the great people like yourself as well in all of this.
Thank you.
So this is all enjoyment. It's stressful, of course, but that's the fire. When you've been a startup junkie all your life, and by the way, I left home at 16, so I've been in startups pretty much even before that in some form or another, whether it was paper rounds, pizza shops, bars. Women's clothing factories, IT businesses. There were startups all the way through. So I don't have a fear of zero. But at the same time, that's also the addiction. So yeah, it's probably a problem. And maybe I need counseling.
I don't know. Maybe we can start together.
But yeah, I've been. But every time when I've finished VM Tech, I said that would be my last one, and here we are. What
brings you back?
Anything that grows the brain where you see an opportunity to do something better. So, and the more complicated sometimes, the more attractive it is to me as well to try and solve. So the reason I invested in flying cars, artificial intelligence, space tech, cybersecurity businesses, all these things, I get to learn and be part of those innovations and those journeys. So whether it's through the founder or whether it's supporting the founder or whether it's doing it myself. So that's why I do it.
Nice. And Saltwater Games, where can people find you guys? What's coming up? Can you give us any more breadcrumbs maybe along the way?
Saltwatergames.com is definitely the place to get absolutely everything. Obviously, if you're in Discord, you're going to get a much higher level of fidelity around what we're doing, especially because the council members are in there too. So, but obviously Twitter, we're sharing things on that all the time too. But really, if you're in the questing platform and you're coming into app.saltwater games, then you're going to be getting everything that we've got. So as before it comes out. So you'll get to see the different titles. Actually, even if you go into the questing platform now, you'll see the list of some titles that are out and some that are coming.
Before we leave,
Okay.
I brought a bell. Fire round. Answer the question before I ring the bell. You ready?
Okay, hold on.
Stretch it out. All right, Fortnite or Counter-Strike?
Fortnite.
GTA or FIFA?
GTA.
Pepe or Dog with Hat?
Dog with Hat.
Fish and chips or Sunday roast?
Oh, Sunday roast.
Vape or shisha?
Neither.
Open your phone right now and tell me what the last thing is that you Googled.
It's probably something to do with Terrence Howard. Let's have a look.
Oh, dear Lord, not Terrence Howard.
It was Empower. I need to pay my air conditioning bill.
What's your favorite gadget you own right now?
Oh, that's a hard one because I've got a lot. It's the gadget.
Come on.
Oculus.
Okay, fine. What's tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Dead or alive, if you could hire anyone to work with in Saltwater Games right now, who would it be?
Dead or alive.
Dead or alive.
Dead or alive.
Fire question.
Oh, who would I hire? Thing is, I've got the team that I want as well, and I'm actually interviewing them right now. I've actually got someone right now that we want. And I can't say his name right now.
No one else?
And he's big.
Okay, he's big. Someone who's big.
Len
Findlay, thank you very much for joining our podcast, the Open Metaverse podcast with Animoca. This has been a real pleasure. Everyone, look at saltwatergames.com to find out what's going on next. Thanks, Len.
Thank you very much. Cheers.